And so there's someone else out here. And, I thought it was a lantern because here was this light about waist high. And I noticed as I was watching it that it was kind of going a little fast for someone walking with the lantern. I mean, like real fast. And it was going around trees and stuff off in the distance. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's not a person with a lantern. It's going fast, waist high, has to be the headlight of a motorcycle, some kind of dirt bike or something. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, if and I don't ride bikes, but if I was on a bike and it was pitch black at night, the last place I want to ride is through a wooded forest because it was like going fast. It was zigzagging around through the trees. And I'm like, that just doesn't even sound safe. And that's when I realized that it was out there a bit of ways, but if it was a bike, I would hear the engine and it was silent. And so now I was like, what the heck is this?
Yes, and many children see them too. About 75% of the world's children today are being born with etheric vision. And when your children talk with people and have daydream playmates, the chances are they are actually speaking to some of these people. Because these angels or angelic forces or nature spirits, as they're often called, will often make themselves seen.
And all of a sudden I hear him go, whoa, or, something like that. So I look up. And as I look up, I see this thing.
And I said, I've never seen a butterfly like you before.
I know that the paranormal is real. Listen.
As soon as I spoke to it, it turns around and makes eye contact with me. And then it stands upright.
And it was at that moment that I saw it was like an orange light appear above this row of trees. And from this sort of orange light, this thing appeared. Its wings were actually like sycamore leaf shaped.
And I started talking to them. I'm like, hi, are y'all the dwarves? And I would hear whispers that would say, hi, yeah, you want to play? And it wasn't just my imagination. And I had told them, I'm like, my dwarves, they like beer, And my dad's like, yeah, sure, your dwarves like beer. And they were holding a conversation, and his beer slid upwards instead of downwards, how the house was tilted. And him and my brothers jumped up.
So I stopped calling out Adam, and I'm just my mind draws a blank, and I stop behind that tree stump. I'm pretty close to it now because I took a few steps forward, and I see this thing.
Welcome everybody tonight to Fascinating Fae. Tonight we're traveling to Maine to talk with Troy. Troy, how are things going in Maine tonight?
Pretty good, Jim. It's nice to connect with you and participate in your program.
Well, thank you very kindly from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show. I sincerely appreciate it. Troy, what I do at the start of every show is I spend approximately 1 minute introducing the show's parameters to you, the guest, and to the audience listening, because you never know who's dropping in for the first time. So I like to keep it consistent. Is it cool with you if I spend just 1 minute doing that?
You be you.
Copy that. Okay, well, the first rule of Fascinating Fae is that we're not here to convince anybody of anything. I often make the analogy that the Fae give you these barbed wire wrapped gifts because you get this amazing gift. It's truly a gift, but good luck explaining it to people who are uninitiated.
Yeah.
So there's no emphasis on like trying to convince. A lot of times I think when people tell stories, they get naturally so somewhat defensive and can become sort of defensive in their storytelling in an effort to feel or sound logical and rational and, not veering off into, areas of truth that may not be acceptable. So people, temper or meter their storytelling. I like to just say, look, we're not here to convince anyone of anything. So please just tell me what happened. I just want to hear what happened. Second rule was not really a rule. It's just a thing I say second is it's brave to come on the show. Troy, I think it's brave for you to come on the show. Talking openly about experiences is an intimidating thing to do. It makes everyone freak out a little before they come on. And that's because it takes bravery to talk about this stuff. Even if you're telling a loved one, you got to muster up the courage to say, I'm going to sit my partner down and tell him or her this. It's not an easy feat. So that's not a platitude. I do want you to know it's a double-edged thing. No convincing of anything. At the same time, man, is it ever brave to come on the show, and I respect it a lot when people do it. And then just finally, here's how the show goes. I like to let my guests speak uninterrupted about what they came here to talk about today. I'm usually really interested in hearing all of it. Go back as far as you want, jump around if you need to, go in chronological fashion if that is what makes most sense. But what you've got the chance here to do is to just speak openly and freely and help myself and the audience listening understand what's going on, the same way that you do, as if, ultimately, if that's our goal, is to just understand it like you do, gain from that understanding and integrate it into our own analysis and interpretation of our experiences. So it's a sharing between everyone talking, and it's a no pressure, no goalpost situation. That's basically the format of the show. With all that said, so what I'll do now, Troy, I'll just ask you if you'd be so kind. With all that said, just sort of ease us into where you'd like to start, and the microphone is yours.
Okay. So my name's Troy. I live in Maine. I grew up in Los Angeles, and around beginning of high school, moved to Arizona, and then joined the service, the Air Force. Was out at Edwards for a couple of years, and then Kadena at Okinawa. Got out, lived in Arizona again, moved back to around San Jose there for a while, and back to Central California. And, about 5 years ago, came out to Maine. I have always thought of things kind of around that supernatural aspect, kind of just there. When I was a kid, I just would have a sense of, what my parents would hide the best candy or bring for a special surprise. And so I just kind of, they would just get shocked and be like, oh, now we have to hide it again, or get sad that, I spoiled the surprise. So I would just, let things surprise me, so they could just, have that. But as a kid, I didn't really have, I just spent a lot of time on my own, just on the swing set in the backyard, talking with my imaginary friends, a couple extraterrestrials. I'd have imaginary friends, at imaginary terrestrial, at ETs. And as I grew up, I kind of got more disconnected from that. Lived in a house, a haunted house, where through one way or another, I kind of got a sense of who that spirit was and my connection to them in a past life, or maybe we kind of look at things now more a parallel one. And let's see, that started about the time I was 13 and lasted for a couple years. What has taken me to the show in regards to Faye is three things. One was just a brief episode when I was camping, and another was just turning a corner around a base I lived at, seeing what I believe was an elemental. And then another one, just something more recently in meditation with Mother Earth in regards to what I would see as changes going on that I think a lot of people are kind of feeling and likely to come to a head in the next year or two. And I believe, honestly, it's not just something that, we're going through here on the planet, but amongst the planet itself and the universe taking a shift. I figure maybe I'll go ahead and start with something that happened to me while I was out camping, and this was in California at Uvis Canyon. It's this little campgrounds kind of off the road and through this little touch town. Hardly anyone ever goes there. I would take, the kids, but, before that, I would go there, probably not even see another person the whole time. And there was a few trails, all well maintained. And there's one of the trails, the first thing you come up across is a little stream. And something I learned living in Okinawa and exploring there was if there's a stream, there could be a waterfall, there could be a little pool of water, somewhere nice that fed this. So I would, camping, I just kind of followed it around, and it kind of turned this bend to a little waterfall and this little pool. And it was around this corner and had some nice, kind of rocks to sit on and off the path. So I would just enjoy that and meditate out there. Around this time, and it was in the mid 90s, I started taking some meditation classes. And I thought, I've always kind of had this, sense of spirit around. And I thought, let me go out and see if I connect with any earth spirit or fae in the area. So I I had this Native American, it was a wooden flute. I got in Arizona back in the mid 80s, and I brought it out there, and I just played for a couple hours, putting my intention to have contact with any earth spirits or fae of that area, hoping to, make a connection. And after a couple hours, it was a nice meditation. It was getting pretty dark. And, I didn't get any sense of anything around. So I figured I better head back, to my camp before it got too dark. At this time, I was kind of walking through the woods and along this trail, and it was dark. I mean, it was like, it got pitch black. And my flashlight, I wasn't really ready to be out that dark or that late, so my flashlight was kind of dull, wasn't working great. And so I was kind of just trying to keep on the trail, and I looked back and I saw off in the distance someone else, with a lantern kind of just going through the trees. And I was like, okay. And so there's someone else out here. And, I thought it was a lantern because here was this light about waist high. And I noticed as I was watching it that it was kind of going a little fast for someone walking with the lantern. I mean, like real fast. And it was going around trees and stuff off in the distance. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's not a person with a lantern. It's going fast, waist high, has to be the headlight of a motorcycle, some kind of dirt bike or something. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, you know, if and I don't ride bikes, but if I was on a bike and it was pitch black at night, the last place I want to ride is through a wooded forest because it was like going fast. It was zigzagging around through the trees. And I'm like, that just doesn't even sound safe. And that's when I realized that it was out there a better ways, but if it was a bike, I would hear the engine and it was silent. And so now I was like, what the heck is this? And this light was going through the trees and going so fast, and it was coming right at me. And and I could see how it lit up the area all around it. As it got closer and going fast, I could see like the shadow like of the trees as it lit up the area, but it was still dark. And this orb, this ball of light, about the size of a soccer ball, just came and just flew right past me, close enough I could touch. It was about the size of a soccer ball, and I knew the way it was moving around and how fast it was going and coming right at me. I just really got the sense that this was alive. That whatever this orb was alive. And I wanted to see what it was. And I tried to look at it, and it was so bright. It was like looking at a ball of mercury on fire, just this bright light. And, just itself, I couldn't even see. It was too bright. And it went right past me and just kept on going. And I just watched it kind of go away, and as it went through the trees on its way. And I thought, okay, this must be a fae or some kind of earth spirit that had, you know, came to check me out and heard me, out there playing the flute. And I was like, wow, this is cool. I never saw anything like this before. I don't think I even seen a little orb before at that point. So I went back to camp, wondering really what this was. And it was dark, so I just ate real quick. And I went to bed in my tent. And this is where things took a weird turn. I'm laying, in my tent in bed, and I could see myself from a perspective above my tent. It was like a little dome tent. The lid was off to get some air. It was about waist high, But from the perspective of above my tent, I could see what looked like about 3 or 4 classic gray aliens with their back to me going through my campsite, like shuffling through the stuff. And I thought to myself, first, I've always heard of like ETs like being short, and they were kind of tall. They were about my height. So I'm like, okay, I'm obviously dreaming. And then I thought, well, it's pitch black out, but I could kind of like see what's going on. And so there's no tall alien grays. I wouldn't see in the dark like this. I'm obviously dreaming. And back when I was a kid, I used to practice lucid dreaming. And so I was like, okay, I'm just going to wake myself up. And I woke myself up, and I was there in my tent on the floor, wondering whether or not I should look up or look outside the tent. And I figured I better. So I turned and looked up, and what I could see was about these 3 or 4 gray aliens, kind of hunched over, watching me through the tent. Like I could see through like the mesh. And I thought, oh, great. Am I having a dream in a dream? What's going on? I just kind of like, okay, don't abduct me. I must still be dreaming, and went back to bed and sleep. And woke up the next day, and, Everything was just normal as ever. And I was just wondering what that ball was. Was it some kind of fey or elemental? Was it connected to something extraterrestrial? I don't know. It kind of all just happened at once. And it could be either or both. And, hard to say.
That's really great storytelling. I was riveted listening to all of that. Thanks for sharing that. First off, that's my first thing that I need to say.
Yes. My pleasure.
What color was the orb?
It was a bright white. I at one point in a chemistry class, I burned some magnesium, and it is bright white. I mean, it is white. It was only a little piece. I mean, it was small, but it was bright. And that's what it reminded me of, but like the size of a soccer ball.
Something that you're describing really lines up with my encounter, because I've often described the purple white light that I saw coming from the ferry as so bright that you couldn't see past it. It was just so bright. But at the same time, I don't recall it really hurting my eyes. I just remember it being maybe the brightest thing I'd ever seen, but at the same time not having eye pain. I'm wondering what that was like for you.
Well, it didn't hurt my eyes. It was just so bright. I couldn't see. It's like if you were to look at the sun through, or maybe even through a telescope or something, like just look straight at it. It didn't hurt my eyes. I couldn't, it was too bright to see what's in it, because I felt it was alive. And I wanted to see kind of what it was inside this light, what it was, but it was just light and too bright to see inside.
The other thing that really stands out about your description of we'll just call it an orb, moving through the trees, is the speed, precision, and unnatural setting or time, like it's moving in the dark really fast, really precise. When I saw my ferry, it was so ultra fast and ultra precise. When you were finally getting this thing coming up on you pretty close, were you able to see at that point just how fast and precisely it was moving? Did you get a good look at that?
Well, I did, because it wasn't a very dense forest, but it was pretty dense. I mean, every tree was probably about maybe 4 to 5 feet from the next one. And it was going fast and just really swerving around them all. And it was headed straight towards me. So I could see from its light, all the trees it was going around. And it was a very smooth action. That's why I thought it was a motorcycle, because it was going so fast that it couldn't be someone with the lantern. And it just, I can't say how fast it was going, but it was pretty fast. And just literally just went straight past me. I could have touched it without stretching out my arm.
When it came past you, where was it in relation to you? Was it head level? How did it come past you?
It was about a little above my waist, and it was maybe 2 feet, waist high, and to my left. It was on my left side.
And so you're coming down this path, and then you kind of get this perception that, okay, hey, there's someone with a lantern. I follow you. And then from that point to the point that it was on you, was it 5 seconds from the time you noticed it? About how long did it take to get up to you?
I saw it pretty far off. It was far off. It was bright. The whole incident, I would say, at least a minute, maybe 2. Because I remember standing there and trying to study it to make sense of what I was seeing, something I could just relate to. And everything I first assumed it would be, then I could tell it wasn't. And I would take a little time, think, oh, maybe it's this. Take a little time. So it was about a minute or two overall. And then once it passed me, it got out of sight pretty quick.
That's a really fascinating aspect. I talked to this gentleman named William who had a orb encounter that is remarkably similar to what you're describing on Mount Shasta. That's one of the first links I'll send you when we're done talking. The only other questions I've got about the orb, and please be reminded, I only ever ask questions out of curiosity and fascination. That's the only reason that I ask. So when it kind of finally got up on you, at that point, did you perceive any noise, or was it silent throughout the encounter?
No, it was totally silent the whole time.
Yeah.
No rush of wind, like past it, you know? It was just totally, yeah, it was silent.
Isn't it interesting how like something that is defying the laws of physics is also avoiding trees, which makes you feel like it's very physical, you know? Like,
well, I think so. I mean, there's definitely this energetic element to it. I mean, you know, it didn't want to go through the trees, I guess. It was certainly avoiding them. And how it avoided them, it wasn't like it would get too close to one tree before having to get away. It was just like a smooth, fluid action quickly. So every tree it dodged, it was probably a couple feet away, you know, to the next one, to the next one. So it wasn't like if you were on a bike going through like an agility course or a mountainside, trying to just make it through this and make it through that. It just went along its way, and there it went.
yeah, they move like they're on rails, is how I would describe it.
Yeah.
It's too smooth, it's too precise, it's too fluid, it's too quiet, it's too unnatural. It's uncanny valley, as I've heard it described. You're just looking at it and you're like, what is that? What is that? And even if you see it for 3 seconds, or in your case, you've got the benefit of a few minutes, it sounds like, to ponder, I'm really listening to your storytelling, and it just absolutely tracks, because that's exactly what a person's mind would be doing if they were looking at something like this. Makes total sense. The next thing that I would want to know is, so it passes you, it goes out of sight, at which point you're now, heading back to camp. When you eat quickly and go to bed, did you fall asleep pretty well, or were you up a long time thinking about what you had seen?
I think I fell asleep pretty well from what I can remember. I I was tired, and I don't remember if I drove in and set up the camp that day or not, but I do remember just feeling tired, and it was just really dark. So rather than just like make a fire and do that, I just made a quick meal and went to bed. You fell asleep, yeah.
Some people, when they see these things, are exhausted afterwards, and I feel like that is perhaps the brain, the cerebral cortex, has on some level, like through shock or through an attempt to mitigate shock, has temporarily like frozen dealing with that, and is just going to make you go to bed so it can deal with it entirely in the subconscious brain space. Like you're just not ready to unpack it quite yet. Which brings me to my next question. And again, like there's no wrong answer or right answer here, but I'm just wondering, like, what did it make you feel? Was there any emotional reaction when you saw it? Was there any feeling that stood out to you when you saw it? Especially as it got close, I guess.
I was in amazement and just kind of, excited to see it, but still trying to analyze it. So I was kind of in my head more than like emotion. And so I just, I've seen lots of weird stuff. And I just thought there's another one for the list. But I so I just felt that it was alive, and I wasn't sure. I figured because of my meditation, it must be some kind of earth consciousness, awareness, being in the shape or form of a light. And then when I had the dream of the grays, that just made it weirder because now I it's hard to like really figure out one, let alone one or the other.
Troy, I spoke recently with this fascinating gentleman named Clyde. Him and his girlfriend were having I'm just paraphrasing, but they were having like a simultaneous Fae and traditional UFO contact happening absolutely simultaneously. And although like difficult to understand if it is directly correlated, you're not alone in citing this type of corollary around these events. Not at all. In fact, like I try to, where possible, if I haven't published an event, is when I'll reference it in the show like this usually, right? Because then you'll get to hear it for yourself too. There's an amazing corollary between just this initial 30 minutes of sharing that you've done with something I spent, 5 hours listening to just earlier this week. So I also find that very fascinating. I am of the opinion that the Fae and the UFO phenomena are somehow inextricably linked. And whether that's just that moment you found yourself in was a thinner time in which the veil itself was less obscuring, and therefore you were able to see what is actually there all the time, which may be all of these things, or whether those aliens are directly associated with the ball of light you saw prior, we will never know. But it's just so fascinating that many people do describe a corollary, and I just wanted to share that with you. So.
I've heard that like around people who have talked about sightings with Bigfoot, that sometimes they kind of have an ET presence around that, and people that have in like different haunting, have some ET things around that. I think they're all kind of meshed together, and maybe it's they're just all here, so maybe they hang out together. I don't know.
Well, it would seem likely that they are all here, much more likely than there's like some other place where they are, to me. Yeah. And so the limiting factor of full-time knowledge and visual perception is the limit of the faculties of our organic sensory inputs, our nose, our eyes, etc. I think because like any animate part of Earth, whether it's a blade of grass or a human, the quantum is innate within it. Something in us can, perceive these real entities, much like they can perceive us. I just truly believe that that's the case, and that through enough development of the understanding of theoretical physics and quantum biology, eventually it'll be pretty easy to say, oh yeah, like this is a not taxonomically classified energy animal. Here we're going to slot it right in here next to wolves and cows. And, it's just going to be a known part of the ecosystem. Yeah. It's just a quantum animal, essentially,
I've always thought that there's always been a way to explain these things, whether it's angels and demons or spirits or fae or aliens. There's no way to actually measure whether it's something within the quantum field or there's theories that support it, but we just don't have the tools to really play the prove it game. And
yet,
yes, because who knows what science is really available, but I think for the most part, I understand that it's just something you have to experience to really kind of say, yeah, that exists. because of the limits of science we have, I think oftentimes people believe that if we can't prove it, it doesn't exist. But really, all it is we've proven we can't prove it. That we don't have the tools. Not that it doesn't exist. You could have a medical condition that exists that doesn't show up on a test right away. You know, just because science doesn't allow us to perceive or understand something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Really well said, my friend. Really well said. I can already tell you this episode is going to go nicely on the bookshelf along the tome of other episodes in this podcast series. You're well at home here, and I certainly appreciate everything you've said quite a lot. So by all means, feel free to carry on with this form of dialogue with me. It's greatly appreciated.
I do like to share. I think it's important for people to understand. And one thing I believe is this age or kind of period we're in right now is a lot of change going on. And I think within the next couple of years, these changes are really going to kind of show us what's on the other side of it, whatever that is. And there may be people that have never had these experiences say, what is this going on? Perhaps they'll be happening more often, or where more people will see or things show themselves. And they're going to really need someone to ask, what's going on, because they've never really had that experience before. And I think, I think these shows just kind of will help give people direction when that time comes.
Certainly, I think it's dual function. It gives them direction when they arrive at experience and therefore questioning. I also think it can bring about experience. It's double-edged sword, so to speak. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I could veer off and talk about these grays probably for an hour in and of itself, but I try to keep my episode structures around 2 hours out of respect for your time and the audience's time, with, lots of regret that I'm going to just gently breeze past that aspect of it. Can you move on into your second story so that we can allow for time for your second and third one, and for the meditation you spoke of, which I'd love to allow time for as well? So,
yes, because that's about 15 to 20 minutes for that aspect. My second story is honestly pretty quick. And basically, I was living on Fort Ord in California, around Seaside, Monterey area. It's a decommissioned Army base, and I was living on one of the old housing units out there. And it's right by the ocean, and it has a lot of protected land with some, quite a big area of some thin trees all around. So there's a lot of just preserved natural land right there on the edge of this space. And basically, I was driving, and I was with somebody, and I just, stopped and went to go up the road. And at this crossroads, there's this large bush. And from around the bush, someone came out, like just, like maybe one leg was still behind the bush, but they just like stepped out. And it looked kind of like how you might picture Gimli from Lord of the Rings, that kind of a short, stocky person. And he stood there and he stared at me as I drove. And he had a reddish skin, and he was short and squatty. He had kind of like natural colored like pants and maybe a vest. And again, he had reddish skin, and he had a mane all around his head like a lion. and that was red too. And I just got the sense that this was some kind of elemental, perhaps maybe a fire elemental because of the red, although, you got land, earth, you got water, beach, you know. Um, but that's what I saw. And I drove past it and I was like, what the heck did I just see? Did I imagine this? And the person who I was with saw the exact same thing. So I was like, okay. And I just got a sense that where all this protected land is, that this elemental spirit or nature spirit or fae, whatever you might call it, kind of just came to check out what was going on in this area that was right on the edge between this preserve and the base itself. And the base was inactive, so there wasn't a lot of business going on. But so I just think it was checking things out, you know, making a little report or whatever it was doing. And that was the experience.
So, okay, so you're driving. What side do you see it on as the driver? Out your left or out your right?
It was out my right.
Okay, so you're looking across the passenger seat, essentially. How far away, approximately?
30 feet, maybe. I mean, it was just like an intersection, and when I first saw it, as I was, it was a stop sign. I started going through, and just as I started going through is when I saw it. So that was about 30 feet, and then maybe as I passed, probably, 15 feet, maybe 20. It was right there on the corner against the road.
Did you guys make eye contact? Do you recall?
I did.
Yeah, interesting. What were the eyes like?
I don't really recall. I just like felt it, like we were both staring at each other, but I was kind of more looking at the details of his face, of the mane, which kind of really caught me by surprise. Um, the eyes might have just been a little hard for me to see with my vision, kind of, it's like I could see the main, but just that detail, I was looking more at the big picture.
I know what it's like when you feel eye contact. You're not necessarily going to get a deep, great, super clear look at the eyes, but you know when eye contact's been made, even across a football field, you know it. You can actually be in a stadium and clearly know when you've made eye contact with somebody who's sitting in the bleachers on the other side. It's a feeling and it's like a body language response. So I get you. When you say mane, I'm trying to imagine this. So it's got a humanoid face, let's just call it for sake of placeholder, because I know it's looking a little different than a human. But imagining like a person, so is this kind of like neck beard going all the way around into chops, all the way around into...
Well, it reminded me of a lion's mane, but it is different because, the mane of a lion is kind of waved back. It's out around his face, but they're really kind of just waved kind of back to their neck and stuff. This was almost like if you were to look at a daisy and how the petals are just straight out from the center, the hair of the mane was straight out like that. And, it had like these reddish brown kind of rust colors. The hair was a little bit brighter than his face, which was just more kind of aged, it looked like. And it wasn't a solid color. It was almost like there was a little bit of a ring that bled into more of a red. So it's kind of a brownish, rusty color that fed more into like a red. And then before the edges, it lightened up again.
Okay. So fascinating. It sounds like you got a really decent look at it. Tell me again about the face in a little bit more detail now that we've kind of, covered the eyes and the hair.
It was very kind of like a block, almost like a square. and kind of scrunched in. And that's why I kind of think of it. It had a very short and stocky appearance, and the face was kind of, like square and stocky too. Not like a perfect square, but but like that.
Again, sometimes when I'm listening, I get so riveted by a particular aspect, my brain quickly dumps a detail you just told me. So forgive me if you just told me this, but clothed or no?
Closed. Yes, it had kind of like, I mean, I don't really use this term, but I was going to say breeches. I remember its clothes were kind of tan. They looked like natural, like maybe like of a leather kind of, but not. I didn't get a sense of them being really thick or anything. It wasn't exactly what I was paying attention to, but I remember looking at him, and he had like some pants and he had a vest. I can't remember if he had a shirt or not.
And unusual clothes, like not looking like modern human clothes.
Yeah.
It's interesting, the clothing aspect of them, because you basically almost universally hear them in what appear to be handmade or artisanally made hand-stitched clothes, essentially.
That's what I would have thought of, yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to this woman named Frozen Wolf back in season 1 who does artistry with, cloth making, and she was like super obsessed with the clothes that the fae that she saw was wearing, and so she became really fixated on the clothes, and she could describe it in great detail. And she said it was kind of like X stitches up the sides, binding the shirt together, and she could talk about the fringes on the collar and the lapel, and it was just really interesting to the degree to which she was able to recount the clothing details, because I do think that they are clothed, and I think that they are societally a society of artisans, in part because it's an ethical way to distribute work throughout the society so that everyone has purpose and can contribute. So they do it like willingly rather than consolidating clothes manufacturing into a factory. They kind of keep it small so that it's more equitable as well. They enjoy creating, so it's never a pain when they're producing things in their society. And so you see that reflected in the way that they're dressed, which is so fascinating to just think about, like the fae as being so tangible that you can actually like start to catalog their pets, their dogs, the kind of tools they use, what kind of vehicles they possess. These are not just conceptual entities anymore when you start to talk about clothes. Now you're talking about
society.
It's not just an energy body that has no use for clothes. It is analogous to, if someone's got clothing, there's an analogous society from which clothing culturally and from a production standpoint emanated. It didn't just materialize as part of the vision. I don't really believe it. I think it's one of the more compelling details to firsthand sightings of fae out in the open is they often have strange clothes.
Right? Yeah, it seemed dated. Definitely no little Nike symbol or anything like that on them. Now that I think about it, I should have seen if it had a shadow, but I got a sense it was solid. That was him. That's like if if I found him, in the woods somewhere, that's what he would look like. That's who he is. Whereas the energy, the orb, I mean, who knows what it can also look like.
And where we will never know is if that orb slowed down and stopped and phase shifted, would it then look like a little fairy with wings, or is it just all the time an orb? Similarly, does this man you saw at night turn into an orb and zip off to another dimension, or does he just literally crawl behind a bush where there's actual pad of real leaves that he's sleeping on?
Right.
Which is it? Or is it a hybrid? And how does that work?
Yeah.
There's so many downstream questions.
Well, I think there's room in the universe for all the above.
Not only that, but there may be a underpinning logic that not only allows for room, but says this is the logical reason why it is this way.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the hope anyhow. Okay, well, we've covered pretty much all of the visual aspects of a sighting that I like to cover when talking about what you saw on the base. Awesome story as well. Last one I think I didn't really ask is, what did you feel when you saw this guy? Was there any feelings associated, strong emotions?
I just felt surprised. I felt him like looking, like staring at me. We made that eye contact. But when I saw the mane, like when I realized that's what it was, that's when I realized this really wasn't a human. At first I thought, it looked like kind of the stature of Gimli, that could be a person. But then I realized absolutely not.
With your who was in the vehicle with you at the time?
That would be my late wife.
Okay. What was her feelings and reactions upon seeing it? Did it impact her in a way that you can remember? That's my only other question.
Well, we really didn't talk about it too much other than, did you just see that? And she said, yes. And I said, it kind of looked short and squatty. And she's like, yes. And then I didn't want to say more because I wanted to hear what she said. And she said she could see it was like reddish. And, I can't remember if she mentioned the mane or not. But, she described, I remember her describing what I saw.
That movie, it came out around the same time as Sin City, or it might even be Sin City, where it's that kind of manga animation style movie. And there's the one character who's the evil antagonist, and he's got like a reddish color skin. I don't know if you've seen that movie or can remember what I'm referring to. But when you say reddish, was it sort of like this guy's been drinking and his cheeks are red, or was the tone?
No. It was, no, because I know that look. It didn't have, it wasn't like that hue superimposed on more of a pale skin. It was more of an earthy, rusty, kind of clay colored, and kind of, his skin seemed very weathered.
Really interesting. It really does sound like you got a really quality look at it. And for that reason, I can't thank you enough for sharing this aspect of your storytelling as well.
I thought was interesting is, he really stepped out from the bush. He wasn't like trying to hide.
That is a fascinating aspect of this story. Something I've been hanging back on asking is, why do you think he did that? So I'll ask it now.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I felt like, I think I was so surprised that, I kind of went around the corner, the bend in the road, and thought, should I stop and go back and see it, look for it? And then I thought, no, I probably better not, because, it's got its own thing it's doing. But I don't know, but it did. I think if it just wanted to stay behind that bush and watch, it could have done that.
It does make you wonder why it stepped out. I look at these things so logically and objectively, and I take them at face value as real events. So I'm always like asking stuff that's super practical. Like, okay, if it's wearing clothes.
Okay, I did get a sense that like these block kind of features, it had kind of a stern look. So, it wasn't like he stepped out waving, hello. So, but he obviously meant to do it. And that's, well, I'm sure he did, because, he could have definitely seen my car coming.
I'm thinking about it like I'm at home on my deck, and all of a sudden a couple of teenagers stop their bike right in front of my house. Maybe one of them is like 2 feet onto my grass. I might just sort of stand up on my deck and look at them to let them know I'm here.
Yeah.
What the F are you doing in front of my house? I know that's, get out of here kind of thing.
I wouldn't be surprised, because, when you have a base, sometimes there's a lot of stuff that gets spilled and not always the best for nature. And this area of woods around it was it was constantly trying to be developed by somebody. And the people that lived in this area were always rallying to make sure nothing could pass to, build on that land. So it was like always under conjecture. So I could see how, I mean, if I was living on that land, I'd want to kind of see what people are doing too. And I'm sure that when the base closed, things got quiet because it used to be around like munitions and, shooting shells into the sea and, a lot of training like that. So it would have made a lot of noise. And so within like that era, it would have stopped, and maybe they were curious, and like you said, kind of, you know, you know, get out of my yard, get off of my yard, kind of thing.
Just enough microaggression to signal, I don't want you here, without being overt about it. It's a pretty human and subtle kind of move. That's the thing about it that's so fascinating, is it's not, and it cast a spell and your car blew up. It just sort of is kind of like, hey, I'm here. What do you, it's very human. It's very like us.
Well, and considering how we're not always nice to the land itself, I'd probably feel the same way.
I agree with your analysis that we're not always nice. And I wonder sometimes if that's the main thing that's keeping us from encountering the Fae all the time, is they've lost trust and faith in us. Not just recently, but for eons. They're just shaking their head going, oh, fucking humans, when are they going to figure it out? We are a bunch of stupid idiots. Like myself personally included in that pack. I'm not casting judgment. I'm stupid just like everybody else. I've made innumerable mistakes. We continue to make mistakes. We figure it out and we know when we've made mistakes after the fact, but we don't avoid calamity all that well. We're getting better at it in some senses, but at the same time, I'm right there with you in that analysis.
Well, I've been that ugly American too in places, so that is true.
There is no one without blame, and let he who lives in a glass house, cast the first stone, as they say. So, but moving on, I think I butchered that analogy about glass houses and stones. I'll just forgive myself for that and edit it out. Let's carry on now with your intended third phase of Fae-related storytelling. If you'd like to, you can do it however you like with regards to the meditation and the story portion.
Okay. Well, now, over the last maybe 6 months or so, and I think it's probably been going on, other people will know longer, it just seems that we're really in this era of change, and we're kind of in the midst of it now. And and I don't think it's just people. I think it's also the planet and the universe, and it's really taking like this new age, a new step. And most people talk about it, as they're feeling from their experience. And I think they've noticed some of the changes in the planet, as you've seen, like different things of earthquakes and concerns of different things. And there's a lot of philosophy around things being destroyed and then recreated, kind of in this cycle. And I just like to think that perhaps that cycle doesn't need to be quite as rough as it has before. Let's say like with the meteor and the dinosaurs. So there's a little lake by my house, and I go out there sometimes in the morning and meditate. And there was like this little kind of boat ramp and teeny little dock for that. And I was sitting out there and I was thinking, maybe I should ask Mother Earth if she would like kind of like a healing around some of this energy. So in my mind's eye, I made contact, and I'm going to date myself. And there was an old commercial of "You Can't Fool Mother Nature." I think it was like a margarine commercial, and kind of that's what that person from the commercials who I saw. And I asked if she would like a healing, and she's pretty much said it can't hurt, and I got the message that it would take like a kind of like a lot in a way. And so I kind of wanted to see if there was a way I could ever connect with other people that might be interested. And I hopefully this show could be part of that. And along with that healing, I also got a sense of it's not just a matter of energy work, but also practice, like doing it's, like finding ways to reduce your carbon footprint and stuff. So I'm going to start with a meditation about that for everybody. And what we'll do is we'll ask Mother Earth if she'll accept an offering of love and healing and gratitude for everything she has done for the creation of our bodies and continually nourishing us all, whether it's people, animals, plants, stone, the elementals, and all the spirits of nature. So during this meditation, I plan to start out with a little breathing, helping ourselves relax, visualizing ourselves in a forest, and doing a little healing work. So let's start by finding a comfortable position. Perhaps you're already sitting down somewhere or resting on your couch, laying in bed. Just be comfortable and relax. And as we begin to center ourselves, let's start by taking a deep breath. Inhale calmness and peace. Exhale tension and concern. Inhale calmness and peace. Exhale tension and concern. We center ourselves in the present and take this moment to simply be. Inhale calmness and peace. Exhale tension and concern. Become aware of the soles of your feet. Feel their connection to the floor and reaching down to the soil beneath. From the bottom of your feet, picture an energetic link reaching through the ground ever deeper and wrapping itself around Mother Earth's core, a place where everything is nourished and renewed. This place where all life converge, grounded together in the hearth of Gaia. Inhale calmness and peace. Exhale tension and concern. Picture in your mind's eye what form your grounding cord takes. A deep root stretching through the earth. An energetic tube descending through the depths. A sturdy tree trunk or verdant vine fixing you in place. Choose any shape, any color, and replace it whenever you want. Take a deep breath. Inhale peace. Exhale tension. Feeling your body relax. Let's picture a sphere of radiant energy above your head, a gift from Father Sky. Witness its color in your mind's eye, feeling its animated warmth and healing presence as it lowers through the crown of your head, spreading throughout your body, healing along the way, and going where it's needed most. Feel this wave of energy flushing over your eyes, drifting down your face, washing along the back of your head, funneled through your neck, swirling across your shoulders, cascading down your arms and into your hands, gently kneading them as you let go. Feel this radiant energy descend from your shoulders, rippling down into your chest, and empowered by the love emanating from your heart and connecting you with everyone joined in this meditation. Feel this healing energy rolling over your abdomen, descending through your waist, flowing through your legs, streaming past your feet, and flushing any sediment away that you want to release through your grounding cord, where it's transformed in the forge of Gaia. Take a deep breath in, hold, and gently release. At this moment, picture yourself outside, standing in the woods and among the trees, and you remain grounded to Mother Earth. Standing in the forest, take a breath in, gathering the aromas of the forest world. Hold and gently release. Have you emerged in this forest during the day or night? Do you feel the warmth of the sun or crisp coolness of winter air? Is there shade from trees? Or has the season spread the leaves onto the ground? Take a breath in, hold, and gently release. Are you aware of silence? Or do you hear a slight rustling of branches? The breath of Mother Earth, the voice of Gaia. As you look around, notice if the trees are densely packed or spread thin. Take a breath in, hold, and gently release. What of the trees themselves? Are they pines standing tall, evergreen throughout the season? Majestic oak or grand sequoia reaching towards the sky. Take a breath in and gently release. Take this moment just to be present in this moment. Reach out with your awareness to the spirits of life nestled throughout the forest. Feel the living essence of the trees, of plant and stone. Are you aware of any creatures in your forest? Maybe birds or rabbits or deer, foxes, porcupines or bear. The forest is teeming with life all around you. What do you feel? Do you feel the presence of any fae, sprites, pixie, dryad, elementals, or others? All guardians of the forest, spreading their magic on behalf of Mother Earth. Take a breath in and gently release. Picture in your mind's eye a spirit of nature that you've just felt nearby. Connect with them as a personal guide, reaching out from your heart. Thanking you for leading you to this spot to commune with Mother Earth. Take a breath in, hold, and gently release. From the center of your heart, feel yourself forming a bubble of love and peace in your connection to Mother Earth. Watch as your bubble expands, spreading throughout the forest, washing over the land, across the seas, and forming a sphere around Mother Earth. Take a breath in and gently release. Feel your connection to Gaia and ask her how you may be of service. Offering the sphere you've created in gratitude, love, and pure intent, and hope to ease her transformation as she ascends into the next step of her evolution, and in accordance with her highest purpose in this age to come. Take a breath in, gently release, and feel for Gaia's response. Does she grant permission and accept? If so, is there something she would ask you to do? Does she prefer to accept your gift and direct it to where it's needed most? Does she ask that you send it somewhere you're familiar with? Does she sell you something to lessen the effects of the carbon footprint? Or somewhere else to focus your bubble, clearing any unnecessary energy from somewhere on the land, a lake, ocean, seafloor, or glacier? Is Gaia showing you somewhere connected to her inner or outer core? Along the crust or within the mantle? The edges in between? Has she requested help to ease the tension with how she is reshaping the world? Shifting the plates as she expands and contracts. Feel how Mother Earth has benefited from this healing agreement with you. Take a breath in, hold, and gently release. As we conclude, once again, picture a sphere of energy radiant above your head, another gift from Father Sky. Feeling its warmth, healing your body and mind from head to toe. And once again, flushing through your grounding cord as you release it from the bottom of your feet to be reshaped once more in the center of Mother Earth. Let us return to where we began this journey. Take a breath in, hold, and gently release. And when you're ready, open your eyes.
That's so cool of you to give that to everybody.
Well, you know, when it comes from the heart and purity of purpose, you can't go wrong.
I have really enjoyed this conversation with you here tonight. Unexpectedly so. Not that I ever know what to expect, but some conversations just tickle me the right way, I guess.
Well, I'm glad to participate. Thank you for having me on.
The pleasure's mine. As I've said at the intro, and I'll say here again, I do think that was a really lovely gift to offer myself and everybody listening. You have an excellent natural style at providing guided meditation. I hope that that's something that you continue to do.
Thank you.
Well, Troy, with that gift kind of creating this nice warm tone in my heart and head, which is precisely how I feel right now, let's use this energetic moment, which will carry on in this podcast for whoever listens to it next. So we'll keep ourselves in this nice warm vibe that you've created. Mm-hmm. And truly, you've created that. I can hear the Barry Manilow in my voice all of a sudden, hey. Why don't we do this? I like to ask everybody who comes on the show the same question. And there's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. This question is mostly about hearing your thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the matter in one place. So I'll ask you now, Troy, what do you think fairies are?
Well, I think they are, first I'm going to say real, living creatures, perhaps some with a physical body, perhaps some energetic. I think just as people, there's different kinds, different purpose, different paths, and, big, small. I think they're really here to help manage and preserve the earth and allowing it to provide what we need really to have to build our bodies, to nourish, to grow, and to move forward.
I think that's a great answer. There is something source about them. I don't know really how else to put it. They're just they're deeply linked with where abundance comes from somehow. And I do think we live in an abundant planet, one that is full of abundance. And adopting an abundance mindset is difficult in a world of scarcity that's artificial. But the planet itself and its keepers, these Fae, they are actually here to provide abundance. And, your guided meditation invites every listener closer to that opportunity to experience that abundance, because it is almost, in my experience, a limitless well from which they can offer healing.
Well, I'm glad to have this opportunity and join in this meditation with everybody. And it's just been a wonderful experience.
Well, I definitely echo that. What I'll do here, and this is, only just out of respect for your time and the audience's time, for the audience listening, I know Troy has held back on many other stories that are equally fascinating he could have shared tonight. So what we'll do is we'll think about having you back on again sometime soon. But for tonight, if it's okay with you, I will just do 1 minute of podcaster housekeeping, and I always give my guests the last word. So if you want to just think about what your last word is, and it's okay with you if I take a minute to sign off, we'll do that now.
Well, I'm just going to thank you and everybody listening for this experience. And thank you.
Okay, well, that may well be your last words in advance. So here I go with my sign off. For everybody listening tonight, you've been listening to Fascinating Fae. Tonight's episode was produced by Julia Yelchinkaya, and I'm your host, Jim. If you'd like to be on the show, shoot us an email at encounters@fascinatingfae.com, or you can drop me a DM on just about any traditional social. Certainly would help if you shared the show and did all that likey, sharey stuff that people should do when they enjoy a show. But no pressure, just if you get around to it. With all that said, again, mostly constrained by time and not for lack of curiosity or engagement, I'll just say that, on behalf of all of our human and non-human listeners tuning into Fascinating Fae tonight, super big thanks to Troy from Maine for coming on the show. Troy, thanks for being here. I really sincerely appreciate it. I had a great time talking with you. And if you want to go for another last word, you might try again here if you'd like.
Well, it's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
In the morning I awaken and breathe the air in one more time. In the shadow I am taken, I try to remember how to shine. When I look back on my life, it seems my days are nearly done. What I feel could never be right, for I have only just begun. And in the twilight I am waiting to fade away from all I've ever known. For this is my life, and I'm debating why it is that I feel so old. Wisdom, it haunts me, memories, they daunt me. Something out there wants me through the door. People, they don't see anything that I see. I'm wondering why I'm feeling like I've been through this before. Trapped inside the cages of perception, knowledge can be harmful when misused. puzzled by my very own reflection. Stranded here, abandoned and confused, searching for the forces that bind us and blind us to believe in what's around. I believe reality's behind us, all these thoughts in mind that knock me to the ground. And in the twilight I wait for darkness to swallow me, and then I'll understand. And on my last breath, before I'm one with death, I realize that I'm just a young man. Wisdom, it haunts me, memories, they daunt me. Something out there wants me through the door. People, they don't see anything that I see. I'm wondering why I'm feeling like I've been through this before.